It's great to have you with us from wherever you're tuning in from. For more information about Elevate Church or to contact us, head to our website elevatechurch.me and take us wherever you go by downloading our Elevate Church AU app. We hope this message inspires and helps you to take your next steps in your journey.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to November. You made it. Well done. Fantastic. Hey, just straight into it. Quick question, quick show of hands. How many of you are familiar with the game hide and seek? Is that kind of, I know, universal game? So it should be. You can play it anywhere. You don't need any equipment, and it kind of is suitable for all ages. Now, parents, grandparents, you will be aware that when kids are very young, they assume that if they can't see you, you can't see them. Like this guy. And hiding in plain sight. But as kids get older, the extent and the sophistication to where and how they hide kind of goes up. I mean, there has been shopping centers shut down looking for 7-year-old little Johnny, because even 7-year-old little Johnny has no idea where he is, playing hide and seek from dad. But what I've noticed is that we might sort of grow out of hide and seek because we're too old for that or whatever. But when it comes to God, I've observed that many people continue to play this game of hide and seek with God, and some people actually literally don't want God to find them. You know, they've developed some destructive behavioral patterns that they assume that if God catches them, he's going to judge them for their self-inflicted stupidity. They maybe destroyed a relationship, and if God catches me, he's going to punish me for the damage I did to that other human. You know, maybe we've just been sort of aimlessly wandering through life, pursuing just pleasure and greed and selfishness, and we're scared if God catches us, he's going to do the titch, finger wag of shame. And so the last thing some people want is for God to get them. But I like to say this, and as a reminder to a lot of people, God is out to get you. He's out to get you forgiven. He's out to get you healed. He's out to get you restored. And ultimately, he's out to get you on the path to pursuing his plans and his purposes for your life. Now, I know not everyone is necessarily convinced of that, or maybe like, maybe not everyone thinks God being out to get them is a good thing. I mean, God catching you, if he's not good, then that's not good. Because judgment, punishment, shame, all of that, that's coming your way if God's not good. So if God's not good, this is my advice to you. Run and don't stop running. Do not let God catch you ever if he's not good. However, if God is good, if he's compassionate, if he's merciful, if he's gracious, if he's willing to offer forgiveness even for the worst things you've thought, said, and done, then my advice to you is this. Not only don't run from him, run to him. He's not someone to be avoided. He's someone to run into the open, loving, gracious, merciful, compassionate arms. Now, we're looking at this kind of idea of who God is. And rather than take it from a TED Talk or rather than take it from a blogger somewhere, we're actually going to the source. We're looking at who God is based on who he said he is, on who he revealed he is. And throughout history, God has revealed a number of very unique names about himself, which point to both who he is and also, therefore, give some clues as to what he does. And so this series is called God Is, God Does. 3 weeks ago, week 1, we launched this series looking at where God revealed to a guy named Abraham that God himself is Jehovah Jireh, which translates the God who provides. This idea that God can see what you need even before you know you need it. And because he has endless resources, he not only can see your need, he can send your need in advance. And we just need to be obedient and trust that the God who provides is going to meet our needs. Week 2, we looked at the name that God revealed about himself, Jehovah Rapha. And these are Hebrew names, which translates in this case to the God who heals. This idea that God is capable of turning bitter, whatever it is in your life that's bitter, into better. If you need physical healing, God can do that. If you need mental healing, God can do that. If you need relational healing, God can do that. Insert the blank of whatever it is in your life that is bitter and know that Jehovah Rapha, the God who heals, can turn bitter into better. Now, you can listen to them on the podcast. You can scan the flow code on the seat back. That'll download our app. There's a podcast there. Also, in case you missed it, there's message notes, a new feature we've added into that. And I'm kind of pitching this series as like Christianity 101. Like they teach this stuff in Bible college, and they teach this stuff in Bible college for a reason. That we build our faith, not just on this sort of like blurred relationship with God, but on this idea of I have a relationship with a God who I trust that he is who he says he is. But you can only trust him being who he says he is if you actually know who he says he is. So we also, for the advanced students in the class, we taught a series early 2024 called God in His Own Words, where God had given Moses the job, like tapped him, given him the job to lead 1 million plus Israelites into the promised land. And Moses is like, wait a minute, that sounds like a big job. That sounds like a tall order. And God, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to need to know that, whoa, how did that happen? I'm going to need to know who you are. Like, who am I on assignment from? And incidentally, back then, it was like an affront to God to have a personal relationship. God even had a name for himself that was deliberately unpronounceable. It was like he was distant. So Moses, like in this kind of cheeky move, asked God, show me who you are. And interestingly, God did. God appeared to Moses and described himself, God in his own words, in these following words: I'm the God of compassion and mercy. Now listen to this next one of my favorites. I am slow to anger. Well, that's good news next time you screw up. And filled with unfailing love and faithfulness. So you can go back on our podcast. It's free, so I don't think I'm trying to sell you anything here. Today, I'm going to continue our series, and we're going to look at the third name that in this series. This one doesn't get as much airplay as the two that we've already taught on, and probably doesn't get as much airplay as the one we're going to teach on next week. But if you've got your Bible app on your phone, you can scan this flow code. It's going to drop us into Genesis chapter 16. So this is the first book in the Bible, so we are going way back. Let me give you some context. The key character today is a woman named Hagar. Okay? And we're going to drop into a slice of Hagar's life where, to put it mildly, things are a mess. We're going to discover Hagar in the middle of nowhere, sitting by a tree, pregnant, alone, no food. So wrap all those circumstances together. I think it's fair to say she was in a pretty desperate, vulnerable, not just physical place, but actual place in her life. And I'm going to come back to that and talk a little bit about how she got to be in that situation and physically in that place. But while she was there, at the absolute end of her rope, running away from her circumstances, running away from the people that had caused these circumstances in her life, this happened. The angel of the Lord found Hagar beside a spring of water in the wilderness. And thereafter, Hagar used another name. This one hadn't been revealed till now to refer to the Lord had spoken to her, she said, "You are," say this with me, "the God who sees me." So right off the bat, we discover that even when you are at the lowest of your low, you are at the furthest away from the ideal situation in your life, God meets you where you are. Hagar didn't need to get anything fixed, changed, sorted, reversed. She was there, like helpless, hopeless, and God met her in that, not just physical place, but in that circumstance or set of circumstances in her life. And so this phrase, or this name, the God who sees me, translates in Hebrew as El Roy. Now, first 2 weeks, some of you boffins, you're like, wasn't it Jehovah Jireh and then Jehovah Rapha? I would have expected that this is going to be Jehovah Roy. And here's the backstory. It's really not the most important thing, but if you want to be impressive, next time you play Biblical Trivial Pursuit, the name Jehovah or Yahweh was like the name that the Israelites would refer to God. And it was kind of their personal connection name to God. Hagar was of Egyptian descent. So it's plausible, and this isn't definitive, it's plausible that she wouldn't have known the God Yahweh. She wouldn't have felt that that's the God, the name that she would give to God. This name El was sort of more of a generic name in the region at that time. So there you go. Not the main point. The main point is this: God is the God who sees you. He sees your struggles. He sees the issues you're facing. He sees the people coming against you. And he sees your value. He sees the way forward. He sees your victory. He sees what he's sent that's already on the way in your life. And ultimately, he sees the difference you can make and that he wants to do in your life in order to put you on the path of better in your life. Now, it's 2025. I know you know that. One of the things that is kind of increasingly a thing in 2025 is digital tracking. And to be honest, not entirely sure how I feel about that. I mean, devices listening always to you in every conversation you have. Week and a half ago, we were here on a Wednesday night in an Elevate group, and we were in the middle of resealing the wooden floors in Hall 2. So we had taken everything out of Hall 2, which is opposite where we are now, and we'd brought it into the foyer and the back of the auditorium. So everyone coming in, it was an obstacle course. It was like a game show. It was like, if you could make it into the auditorium, you get a prize. But none of the people coming to the Elevate group that Wednesday night knew that was going to be a thing. So they're walking in, open the doors, are like, whoa, hey, whoa. And they made it in. So I started explaining, hey, okay, sorry about the mess. I'm glad you made it in alive. Fantastic. Dodged it. And we're doing the thing, the wooden floors in Hall 2 and such and such. Anyway, Gav, who's sitting over here, was one of the people in that Elevate group. First thing, that was a Wednesday night. First thing, Thursday morning, Gav sends me a text message, having talked about wooden floors the night before and sealing them and giving them a glow up. Gav sends me, first thing next morning, a screenshot from his phone, which looks like this. An ad for services to fix your polished wooden floors. With the message, Google was listening very intently last night to our conversation. And I'm like, terrifying. So I'm not too thrilled about that aspect of digital tracking. But what about this one? AirTags. Those of you that are Apple fan people, AirTags, little device gaining in popularity. You can put one in your wallet. So if you lose your wallet, those of you that are at the age of the wonder years in your life, the wonder years, spend half the day wondering where you put your wallet. You can put an AirTag in your wallet and no more wondering. You can put them on your bicycle to stop bicycle theft. That's a thing. That's pretty cool. You can put them on your pets. So if your fur baby runs away, you can track, get it beautiful. You can put them on your kids. That's just between you and your kids. You could put them in your luggage. And this is the one I think I'm probably the most excited about. You can put them in your luggage. And by the way, in case you missed it, there are now increasing numbers of national and international airlines who have basically acknowledged that their luggage tracking systems suck. And they are actually teaming up with Apple to use Apple's technology that's better than their technology to ensure that you and I never lose a suitcase again. Come on now. Welcome to 2025. How good is that? What a time to be alive. Woo! Give me a pack of 10, Tim Cook. I'm on it. But did you know that God tracks you? Wait, what? He does? Well, yeah, he does. He does. And again, whether that's good news or bad news comes down to the question, is he good? Or is he not good? If he's good, I want him to track me because I don't want to be alone with myself sometimes. I don't want to be alone with my decisions. I don't want to be alone with my thoughts. I don't want to be alone with my struggles. I don't want to be alone facing circumstances that I can't get through on my own. I want God tracking me. I want to be the guy in the classroom that says, and God goes, yep, got it. I can see you. I can see you. I know where you are. I know what's going on. I know what... If he's good, then God tracking you is good. Now, of course, if he's bad, then you're like, can we just go back to hide and seek, please? And we see this with Hagar. The angel of the Lord, say this with me, found Hagar. He came to her. He was tracking her beside a spring of water in the middle of nowhere along the road to shore. And then the angel said to her, Hagar, Sarai's servant, and here's two questions. Let's ask them out loud. Where have you come from and where are you going? And again, if God's not good, cue the Jaws theme music. None. But I mean, first of all, on the surface, it seems like an absurd question. The all-knowing God of the universe. Just out of curiosity, Hagar, where have you come from? He knows. But the good thing is, because he's good, he wants to take stock of reality with you, with us, because he's got better in mind. He wants to move us from bitter to better. He wants to move us from stuck into the future. He found her. He already knew her name. How cool is that? He's a personal God. He found her in her most vulnerable state, and he asked her these two questions. Now, I promised I'd come back to why Hagar was hiding in the wilderness in the first place. If there was a camera crew following Hagar around in the lead up to this for the purposes of creating a reality TV show, they could probably call this reality TV show Hot Mess. Welcome to this week's episode of Hot Mess TV, because it was just hot mess after hot mess after hot mess. Her circumstances, if they made a reality TV show out of it, would make Love Island look like a kids' show. So there we go. So here we are. The other two characters we'll discover are Abram or Abraham and Sarai, who's also Sarah. Same people, and we actually looked at some of their circumstances in the first week of this series. Abraham, God had promised him that he would become the father of many nations. So in fact, God even spelled it out. Said, Abraham, you will have as many descendants as there are grains of sand on the seashore. That's a lot of grains of sand. That's a lot of descendants. Problem is, after God made that promise, waiting. 10 years went by. And Abram, who'd received this promise, and his wife Sarah, nothing had changed. No baby had come along. They were getting older, and so things were getting desperate. So Sarah had a bright idea. Honey, I think I've got this. It's been 10 years. How about you, Abraham, go and sleep with my servant Hagar and get her pregnant. And then when she has the baby, we can call it ours, and that'll be God's promise for you to become the father of many nations. Check, done. So, what could possibly go wrong? But in that culture, and this is really important to understand in terms of how things ended up being so bad for Hagar, is in that culture, this was actually a reasonably common and very much accepted practice. If a couple were unable to have kids, it was culturally acceptable for the husband to sleep with a servant and have a baby. But it offers a cautionary lesson for us, because this wasn't about the biology of things. This was about Abraham and Sarah choosing to do what the culture said was permissible instead of holding on to what God said was ultimately possible. So Hagar became pregnant. The Bible is hilarious sometimes. She starts walking around the house, pregnant, in front of Sarah going, how you like me now? Rubbing it in. Hot Mess TV. Tune in next week. Sarah said to Abram, this is all your fault. Which is like, sweetheart, this was your idea. Welcome to marriage. I put my servant in your arms, but now she's pregnant, which, you did that. She treats me with contempt. Well, I get it. The Lord, let him be the judge. He's going to show who's wrong, you and me and Abraham. This guy, he could just be an Aussie bloke in this situation. Look, she's your servant. You deal with it. Not my problem. Right, sure. So deal with her as you see fit. And Sarai treated Hagar so harshly that Hagar finally ran away. So remember, in this situation, Hagar literally had done nothing wrong. So when you're, the world is unjust, it's not fair, God, how did you let this happen to me? You're not the first. It happens. But how we respond, how we react, how we allow God into the circumstances, that's ultimately what's going to make the difference. Hagar had been used and abused, literally, because Abraham and Sarah decided to take a shortcut. Now, let me show you a little something. Let's start with this. What I'll call key components for blessing. Now, this is being recorded, so I'm going to say this very clearly. This is not a formula. Okay, when you hear preachers go, all right, if you do these 1, 2, 3 things, then God, like a vending machine, will just pop out a blessing. So it's not a formula, but there are components. However this comes, these things are pretty much prerequisites for us to position ourselves for God to bless us. It starts with God's promise. So, too often we hold on to things that God never promised. But if it is something he has promised, then hold on and don't let go, because he's reliable. So starts with God's promise. Then our obedience. Sometimes we ain't getting the promise because we ain't doing what God asked us to do. It's just too hard. I'll come back to that. And then Even if we're doing okay in the obedience front, this is the one, God's timing. Are we there yet? Like petulant brats in the back seat on the family road trip. You're taking too long. Really? So you know better than God? So these are key components for blessing, and then these are key components for a hot mess. God's promise, that's a good start. But then if you decide to take a shortcut, not so much. See, because the thing about shortcuts is they seem better in the short term, but they almost always cause us to have to go the long way around and take longer, and therefore the solution, the blessing, if we even ever arrive at that, actually is not a short-term solution. And the other problem with shortcuts is, if you could be completely honest, is you're actually substituting yourself for God. When you're saying, God, you're taking too long, so I'm going to fix it. God, I don't like the way you're doing this thing, so I'm going to change the rules of engagement. It's like, you know better than God. So you'll do it, but yeah, you can, I can, we can. Recipe for a hot mess. And there's plenty of examples. People take shortcuts in business, shortcuts with their finances, shortcuts with their health, shortcuts with things. The one that I like to just play around with is shortcuts in relationships. And I'm just going to use this one just to make a point. I'm not picking on anybody. But here's the thing. Some of you are single, and that's not exactly a punishment, incidentally. Don't think some people are called to be single. It's a great blessing. It's a great gift. Some of you, maybe you're single now. God wants you to be married. That's between you and God. But here's the thing. What I've seen again and again and again with some single people is they start praying to God, God, you know, I really would like, I'd like to be married. I'd like to find someone. I'd like to find Mr. Right. And you've got your list. Mr. Right. Mr. Right, I mean, I'd love him to be a Jesus follower. Got to be a Jesus follower. Someone of good character, definitely good character. Someone committed to the local church. Yeah, that's my wish list, God, for Mr. Right. And then 10 years go by, and you stop praying for Mr. Right, and you start praying for Mr. Could Be Worse. Because when desperation goes up, standards go down. And I've seen time and time again when people start to substitute Jesus follower as a criteria for a relationship and just have a pulse as the only thing that's required, it's a recipe for a hot mess time and time again. It works sometimes. You know, people are like, I'm just doing flirt to convert. You're like, no. The angel of the Lord said to Hagar, return to your mistress. Now, this is mistress like master mistress, not, thanks, Tim. Told you I wouldn't skip over that one. Mistress, and submit to her authority. And then he added, I will give you more descendants than you can count. So what we see in this kind of parting words from the angel is two things, a challenge and a promise. A call to obedience and then a blessing. But the thing about this challenge, this call to obedience, is literally God saying to Hagar, go back to the hard place. And in 2025, we don't always associate being in the hard place as being somewhere that God is using to ultimately lead us into a blessing. So too often we prioritize comfort, We prioritize convenience. We look for ways to tap out, sneak out, get out. God, Amazon Prime me out of this into anything else. I don't want to be in this hard place. And yet oftentimes God will say, go back to the hard place or stay in the hard place because I want to teach you some stuff. I want to develop some stuff. We've got some business to do. You refine gold in the fire. That's how this works. You make diamonds out of coals under pressure. That's how this stuff works. This stuff that God wants to do, he's going to send us into the hard place, go back to the hard place, stay in the hard place. Because if you tap out, you're going to miss out on understanding his power, his presence. You're going to miss out on him teaching you the character, the lessons, the reliance on him that we need more in the hard places. Hello? You don't need God on the couch. You need God on the battlefield, right? We need him. He sends us to the hard place. Ugh, I hate the hard place. Like if we were a clapping church, some of you right now would be like, okay, sure. I really regret being here this morning. But there's a blessing. There's something God's preparing you for. There's something God wants to do. There's character that he wants to be developed. Don't avoid the challenge. Embrace the challenge and trust that God in his timing will cause the blessing to come around. So here's what I just want to finish. And I say this as an encouragement. Some of you are in the hard place right now. And I hope the thing you take away from being here this morning is that God sees you. God sees you praying for the child who's hanging out with the wrong crowd. He sees you. He sees you praying those prayers in the wee small hours. God sees you applying for job after job and getting rejected and wondering if you're ever going to get a better job. Maybe your bank balance is going down week after week and you're cutting expenses and you're doing everything you can and you're wondering, am I ever going to get out of this hard place? I want you to know this morning, God sees you. When the critics start smearing you, even when you're trying to do the right thing, God sees you. When you're putting in the work to break the patterns of addiction and fear and poverty and abuse and anger, some of which might even be generational things, when you're working hard, when you're putting yourself in front of the therapist, when you're going to the courses, when you're reading the books, I want you to know God sees you. When you're exercising great financial discipline to get out of debt, even if it was your fault to get there in the first place, or maybe it wasn't, that making the hard decisions, God sees you. When you're trying to be the parent you never had, or the spouse your parent never had, I want you to know God sees you. When you are sitting here on a Sunday, dreading that tomorrow you have to go to a job you don't like, in order for God to put a paycheck in your bank account and food on your family's table, God sees you. He is El Roy, the God who sees you.
We really hope you got a lot out of this message. If you live in the Perth area, we'd love for you to join one of our live experiences. For times and directions, as well as information, head to our website, elevatechurch.me. For those of you beyond the Perth area, we'd love for you to connect with our online experience, which premieres every Sunday via YouTube and Facebook Live, and on demand immediately after. And to partner with us to reach more people by giving financially, head to our website, elevatechurch.me, and also download our Elevate Church AU app.